Hey guys, so I know the title of this video is a little risque, but I want this to be very blunt, very real video. Now, a lot of you guys know me from, Traversy Media, my main channel, and you know me as the guy that does web dev tutorials. However, from the ages of 17 to about 25, I was a raging heroin addict. And I don't want to make this video about me and my story because I did that in the very first video on this channel. So you can check that out if you want. Instead, I want to give people a look inside the life of a heroin addict. And in today's world, it would be a fentanyl addict because there's no more actual heroin on the street. Now, my main reason for this video is to just kind of shed some light on this topic for people that have never lived that life or been exposed to it, which is most people. And I've seen and I've gotten a lot of judgment in my past, and I completely understand that. It's hard to understand because from the outside looking in, why would anyone do that to their life? Why would they throw their future away? Why would they risk their life daily from overdose? Some people lose their kids and they keep going, and for what? For a bag of dope. That just, it sounds ridiculous. So I just kind of want to explain why that happens, and this is all from my own experience. So at some point, we try an opiate for the first time. I'm kind of an outlier because I went straight to heroin. It was really prevalent where I grew up in Massachusetts in the late 90s, early 2000s, and I was in a bad place mentally. But many people, or most people, start with something like Percocets or Vicodin. So these are just painkillers. They're pills. They're opiates, which are used. It's a class of drug used for pain or pain management. And you get these when you have a surgery or an injury, which is reasonable. It makes things more tolerable. So some people get hurt and they get put on these pills, or sometimes they'll just get them as a recreational drug, not really understanding the severity of it, not knowing it changes the chemistry of your brain and saturates these opiate receptors that you have, giving you this pleasurable feeling. The problem, though, is that after even just a few days of taking opiates consecutively, when you stop, you go into withdrawal. And this is how your body reacts to not having those opiate receptors filled. Now, I know some people will describe opiate withdrawal as like flu-like symptoms, but I hate that definition. Yes, you do get some of that stuff, the chills and all that, but along with that is a feeling that I can't even put into words. The best way I can describe it is that every fiber of your being is craving that drug because of the discomfort that you feel. If you ever had that restless leg syndrome or whatever, it's like that, but your whole body times a million. You're freezing, you're sweating at the same time. Your energy is so dead, it's hard to just get up and go to the bathroom. And on top of that, you're like shitting yourself. Your stomach is all messed up, diarrhea. You can't stop yawning, runny nose, watery eyes, and none of that is even the worst part, in my opinion. The worst part is the mental. It's the depression, that thing that we have inside of us that makes us feel joy and have like motivation to do something, like play with your kids or do a hobby you love. That's completely gone, and there's nothing that interests you at all until you satisfy that craving. And that's why people will go to any lengths to get that drug. They'll steal from their own family, they'll rob banks. Pretty much every female I've known that was a heroin addict did prostitution at some point. Some guys even do it. Shoplifting was my thing. Electronics, power tools, even steaks I'd steal at the supermarket and sell half price to like bars downtown. Everyone has a hustle, and that's your 24-hour job, is to not go into withdrawal. That's the most important thing. It's not your real job if you still have one, which you probably don't. It's not your kids. It's not your health. None of that matters because that addiction, that craving won't let it. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what your morals are, what religion you belong to. None of that matters. That's why I hate when people judge, because it's not about morals. It's about chemistry. It's about the way your brain works. The same people judging an addict would be doing the same exact thing if they'd been on a different path where maybe they got hurt and put on painkillers and made kind of the same mistakes. Now, I won't lie, when you first start taking an opiate, it feels incredible. That's why people get hooked. At least old school heroin, from what I know about fentanyl, it just knocks you right out. But back then, you felt invincible when you were on it, just like a warm, comfortable feeling. All your pain just drifted away, mental pain, physical pain. I started sniffing it, and that's one thing. But then I started shooting it, and that rush is just crazy. So your life is never on an even keel when you're in addiction like that. You always feel really good or really bad. And I'll be honest, 20 years later, and I still think about it sometimes and still miss it. Sometimes we forget the horrible shit that comes with it. And you have to remember the hell you went through to stay clean. But the thing is, once you do it for a month, 2 months, you stop getting high and you stop getting that feeling. And it's only about not being sick and not going into withdrawal. And for most of us, we'd use until we were forced to stop by either jail or death. And I'm at the point now where more people that I grew up with are dead than are alive. And most of it's from the fentanyl shit that's been out the past 10 years. And jail stopped me quite a few times. I would get clean, but if you're an addict, you stay an addict for life. You'll always have that devil on your shoulder, and you have to be aware of it. And most people, they give in at some point, and that's why most people relapse. Your life may get bad. You may lose your husband or wife, or your kids won't talk to you. You lose your job, and your addiction is always going to be there, just waiting. It's, as they say in recovery, it's your addiction is just doing push-ups while you're clean, just getting stronger. Now, there is another route that opiate addicts can take, and this is what saved my life, and that's just maintenance, medication maintenance. This is where you get put on methadone or Suboxone, which work on the same opiate receptors in the brain and fill them so you don't have those cravings and withdrawals, and it keeps that devil at bay. I got on methadone in my 20s, and I was on it for well over a decade. And this is another thing that I can't stand when people judge, because it's something that literally saved my life, and I wouldn't be where I am today without it. It doesn't get you high. I mean, if a regular person without an opiate habit took it, they might feel something for, a week or so, but after that, it's just being normal. And on methadone, I met my wife. I had two beautiful kids. I built a business, built somewhat of an online empire, and did more than I ever would have imagined. And yes, there are people on, methadone clinics and stuff that still fuck up and they do other drugs, but they're just not ready. If you're not ready to stop, then nothing's going to help. I was ready. And the fentanyl that's out there now is just so much worse. It's in every way. It's stronger than heroin, but it doesn't feel as good. It just knocks you out. The withdrawal is worse. It doesn't last 8 to 10 hours like heroin does. It lasts 2 to 3, and then you're sick again. And that drug is just pure evil. And the cartels that are pushing it are pure evil. And it makes the heroin that I did back in the 2000s look like candy. And now there's even more shit they put in it that is rotting people's limbs off. It's just horrible stuff. So yeah, I don't want to make this video too long. My hope is that those of you that have judged and shamed people because they're stuck in addiction can maybe try to understand that addicts are, most of them are not bad people. They're not stupid people. They're people that in many cases made a mistake and got sucked into just a world of hurt. And in some cases they were prescribed opiates, so they didn't even make that initial mistake. It wasn't even their fault. They just got injured, and that set everything off. So if you do know someone in active addiction, try and help them, give them a ride to detox, maybe buy them some food, or just talk to them as a friend or a family member. But that's it, guys. That's all I got. Thanks for watching.